Yeah. So it's complex actually, you know. So
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to everyone present here. On behalf of the organizing committee, I, Adarsh Pandey, extend a warm welcome to all the distinguished dignitaries, faculty members, participants of this faculty development program. It is indeed an honor to have with us our esteemed deans, Professor Dr. Nityanand Pandey, sir, Dean School of Law, G.H. Raisoni University, and Professor Dr. Farhad Khan, Dean School of Law, G.H. Raisoni University, whose constant guidance and support continue to inspire us. Today, my second day of faculty development program on the new education policy, a platform dedicated to exploring its visions, implications, and transformative impact on higher education and legal studies. Now, it is my privilege to introduce the distinguished resource person, Dr. Swati ma'am, Assistant Professor, Allahabad Degree College, Prayagraj. What makes this introduction even more special is that our esteemed resource person, Dr. Swati ma'am, is also from Banaras Hindu University, where she pursued her PhD, and I too had the privilege of completing my master's. Dr. Swati is an accomplished academician and researcher holding a PhD from Banaras Hindu University and an LLM from Jamia Millia Islamia. She has served at several reputed institutions, including the Central University of South Bihar, the University of Allahabad, and the Central University of Jharkhand. Her areas of specialization includes environmental law, personal law, gender jurisprudence, ADR, and torts. She has contributed extensively to research with publications in reputed journals, presented papers at national and international platforms, and authored significant academic work. She has also successfully undertaken an ICSSR minor research project on air pollution laws and completed certification in mediation, gender jurisprudence, and intellectual property rights. We are delighted to have her with us today to share her insights. Now, I respectfully invite Dr. Swati ma'am to deliver her session on the topic impact of new education policy in legal education. Ma'am, the platform is yours.
Thank you, Adarsh Pandey for such a good introduction. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I would like to acknowledge the G.H. Raisoni University for conducting these programs like faculty development program on such a relevant topic that is National Legal Education and National Education Policy 2020. I would also like to thank Dr. Nityanand Pandey sir and Dr. Farhad Khan sir, Dr. Nita Nath sir for conducting these kinds of program and giving us a common platform to share our ideas. I would also like to thank the convener and co-convener of the event, Dr. Jasmine Khan and Miss Abhiruchi, madam. For today's session, my topic is impact of NEP on the legal education. Is it? This topic is very important and very relevant also because we always believe that national education policy is not applicable upon the law education. But it is not correct. It is a misconception. National education policy, like previous policies upon the education, which was in the year 1968, 1986, and it was the revision of those education policies in the year 1992 uh, that did not provide any specific area or any specific chapter which has been dedicated to the national education policy, but this national education policy 2020 has given a full scope or a full chapter which is totally applicable upon the legal education. Legal education is not directly governed by the national education policy, but impliedly national education policy is also giving some impression upon the legal education, legal systems in India. If you see the national education policy, it is the first education policy of the 21st century, which effectively aims to address the need of restructuring the education framework in India. Okay, and it contains some radical changes in the higher education system in India. Though it has excluded medical and legal professional education from the single point regulator, but the problem is that it did not provide a single regulator or a specific regulator for the legal and medical education. Okay, but NEP 2020 has given a structural direction for the legal education as an indicator for regulating the legal education. If you see, if you believe that what is the law, in the ancient period, we believe that law is a dharma, and the legal culture, that is the righteous path to achieve that dharma. These are the two most dominating factor in the for the legal education. Though there is not specific way which has been provided by the national education policy, but it did not mean that the legal culture has not been impressed by or is not it did not incorporate in itself the national education policy which has been applicable to other profession. Okay, so it is equally applicable upon the legal education. We cannot say that it is not applicable upon the legal education. If you see the approaches of national education policy, the basic two pillar approach, which we can say that this is the pillar of the national education policy, that is the holistic education. Second is the integrated education. If we have to know what is the holistic education or the multidisciplinary approach of the education, the policy of national education policy, it provides that multidisciplinary and holistic education across the science, social science, arts, humanities, and sports for a multidisciplinary world in order to ensure the unity and integrity of the knowledge. Okay, so essentially such holistic education develops a conscious ability of appreciating the human problems and the ability to resolve the problem. Okay, so the focus of the national education policy is to not only be enlightened by the education, but also to appreciate the human problem and how to get it resolved by the education which we have received. So education has to impart two things. For two things: first, to educate the people, and to create them the ability to resolve the problem arising. Then only the objective of the education is said to be fulfilled. Knowledge, if we see, the knowledge is not simply the command upon the subject as per the guidance of NEP 2020. Command of subject is another thing, but the ability to integrate other disciplines within our subject and the ability to resolve by that command upon the subject to resolve the problem is important. So problem solving approach should also be inculcated in the education system. Okay, so the national education policy is basically emphasizing upon the problem solving approach, the multidisciplinary approach. the involvement in one discipline of the other subjects as well. The one subject cannot be treated in isolation, or one subject cannot be detached itself from the other subject, or one subject cannot be provide such curriculum, such design which is different from the other subjects. So the approach of the national education policy is problem solving approach. How this problem solving approach can be applied? This problem solving approach requires not only the application of the mind, and the multidisciplinary knowledge, but innovation of newer technologies and their application also. So the education should be such in a nature which made it possible that the person has apply his or her mind in any case, and second, innovate some new technologies to resolve that problems, that issues, that conflicts also. This is also called as skill development for the problem solving approach. So the skill development approach should be the objective of this new education policy. Okay, so holistic education as used in the national education policy has literally been interpreted as multidisciplinary combination that would break the stereotype of our education system, the compartmentalized system which we have appreciated till now, with the high walks of scrupulously protecting the boundaries of different discipline. So in the holistic education, it enables one to attain the freedom of movement in the domain of science, social science, art, literature, and technology. You cannot say that this is the subject which belongs only to science, social science, arts, literature, and technology. It developed, the national education policy system developed the barrierless knowledge domain, a sea of the knowledge where a person, an individual can swim across toward the whole discipline. Okay. National education policy also talks about the integrated education policy. Along with the holistic development, it also talks about the integrated approach for the education. If we see the integrated approach of the education policy we have in our Indian indigenous knowledge system also. Indian education system is always been characterized as integrated education system. Okay, we have inspired by the British education system or American education system, but still we have our Indian indigenous education system which talks about the integrated education system. If we see the concept of Tagore Shantiniketan or Sri Aurobindo's Pondicherry, where they have developed a new kind of, or a philosophical kind of approach for attaining the education. Similarly, in the BHO also, if we see, the vision of the Pandit Mahamana was that under the one shed, the whole discipline can be taught, so that the people will be interconnected with each other. They can take or they can disseminate the knowledge with each other. If we see the contemporary, if we have to know the contemporary education system, we have to see the writings of the invaders who came to the India, like in Ibn Battuta and in Al-Baruki version, we find that what was the education system of the India. But what distinguishes the Indian education system is from the other education system is that it depends upon, it based upon the education philosophy, its rich content, and its liberal, innovative, and transcendental methods and procedure, which has been tried to be incorporated by national education system or national education policy 2020. So we cannot say that we did not have these kinds of provision earlier. We have those provision, but it has been expressly provided by the NEP 2020 that the Vedanta philosophy of integral education system which talks about the integration of education through body, mind, soul, and which transcendently provides a radiant soul in the human being, should have to be inculcated in the education system in India. Okay, so these are the main objective of the education system, where from where we have to move forward. Though we have in Vedanta philosophy, the national education policy have reiterated the same, but we have to incorporate it in the real spirit and manner. If we see, generally what happened, a holistic education system and integral education system has been coincided, or we can say that they are synonymical, but no, they have a little bit difference also. Okay, if we are talking about the system which makes the individual having the problem solving approach, or having the ability to create new innovations, that is a kind of you can say the holistic education system. Okay, the objective of the holistic education system is to give the benefit, highest benefit to the largest number of people, to make them more and more educated, to make them more and more literate. Okay, so but the benefit of the education system is not relative, it is an absolute. It is not limited to the highest benefit to the largest number of the people. Okay, here there is a difference between integral education system and holistic system of education. Holistic system of education liberate the system from the stereotype boxes of science domain, social science domain, or humanities or art domain. Okay, so holistic education break this barrier, that this particular domain belongs to science, this particular domain belongs only to the law, or this particular domain belongs only to the technology. Okay, a holistic and multidisciplinary education system only aims to provide or suggest the capabilities of intellectual, aesthetic, social, physical, emotional, and moral. Okay, but the NEP suggests that such a framework would help to develop well-rounded individual in the fields across art, humanities, language, science, social science, and professional, technical, and vocational fields. Okay, so holistic education may create more unevenness in the societies. Okay, integral education, however, talks about the knowledge of a learned mind when the person work for the benefit of the other. Okay, that is the slight difference between holistic and integral education system. We oftenly use these two terms synonymical to each other, but no, we are talking about holistic education system, and we are saying that it is also an integral education system, or it is providing highest benefit to the people at large. So it fulfill the aims and objective of the national education policy. National education policy always talks about the integrated approach along with the holistic approach. So the holistic and integral system of education both have to be incorporated in the national education system. As far as the law background is concerned, or law domain is concerned, actually the national education policy prescribed top-down model of national plan, which has identified certain objectives. First, to keep in view the Sustainable Development Goal 4. As we all know that we have adopted 17 Sustainable Development Goal, which we have to achieve till 2030. So the NEP also adopted some methods to attain or to get it done by adopting the goals in the education system as well. Okay, so in the 17 goal, one goal is integrated education also. So the objective of a national education policy is to keep in view with the Sustainable Development Goal 4, which is adopted by India in the 2015. Second, to keep pace with the rapid change of knowledge landscape. Okay. Third, to adjust with the rapid change in the employment landscape. Education system has to be reformed with respect to the employment aspect as well. To bridge quickly the gap between the current learning outcome and the requirement with the major reforms as well, and to create opportunities for equitable access to high quality education. So these are some objectives of the national education policy which we have to achieve, and we have to achieve it by incorporating it in all professional, non-professional uh, uh, subjects curriculum. Generally, we are talking that new education policy is not applicable upon the ordinary in the law background. No, it's very wrong to say that. It has given in its part 20 a specific mention about the legal education, and it talks about legal education needs to be, if you see the paragraph 20.4, which talks about the legal education specifically, legal, and it provides legal education needs to be competitive globally, and by adopting best practices and embracing new technologies for a wider access to and timely delivery of justice. The main conflict or the main issue with respect to legal education or the legal jurisprudence is that it did not provide any remedy, any solution for the timely delivery of justice. Okay, because we have adversarial system of law where there is a procedure which we have to follow to get the justice. Okay, so in this national education policy, it particularly emphasizes upon that legal education needs to be competitive globally, not at the local level or not at the regional level. Okay, and how it become competitive globally? By embracing some new technologies. For what? For wider access to and timely delivery of justice. At the same time, it must be informed and illuminated with constitutional values of justice. In order to become globally competitive, we cannot overlook, we cannot ignore our constitutional philosophy as well. So it properly, the national education policy properly emphasize upon the at the same time of competitive, make it the legal education globally competitive. At the same time, it also gave importance to the constitutional values of justice like social, economic, and political, and directed toward national reconstruction through the instrumentation of democracy, rule of law, and human rights. And the curriculum for legal studies must reflect socio-cultural context along with an evidence-based manner, the history of legal thinking, principles of justice, the practice of jurisprudence, and other related content appropriately and adequately. If we see in the legal education, we are also imparting education with respect to sociology, economic, philosophy, history. That is what? That is making it multidisciplinary, the holistic education. Okay. So state institutions are very fewer in state institutions. We find that very fewer institutions are offering the bilingual education system, or the local language system. We are generally making English as a compulsory language for the education system. But the national education policy also talking about the providing the opportunity to make the legal education policy system, legal knowledge within the local language or within the regional language. So it's also promote the regional and local languages as well in providing or in dispensing the legal education. Okay. Generally, what happened, if we see the para 20.5, which has been provided by National Education Policy with respect to legal education, we find that it emphasizes justice through litigation in the court, okay, which is by nature adversarial, and the concept of justice is dependent more on the argumentative interpretations that may not often necessarily end in justice. Okay, to make it in adversarial jurisprudence, if the argumentative skill of both the sides are not equal, or both the sides are not comparable, then money may dictate the justice. Okay, so when the legal education have been left out to the professional bodies, then NAP never provide emphasize about the, or never provide any kind of direction with respect to legal education. NEP indirectly, impliedly also mandate the legal education system to be influenced by the national education system, and the objective should be the value education system. Okay, so though NEP is not directly encroaching within the adversarial litigation system which has been provided by our legal education system, or the syllabus has been designed by the professional bodies, but national education policy emphasized upon the value education system, which has to be attained by obtaining certain objectives or by following certain paths. Okay, so the national education policy in its paragraph 20.4 provide a guideline which has to be incorporated in the legal education system in India, and which talks about that legal education has to be globally competitive by adopting best practices, by embracing new technologies, ensuring wider access to timely delivery of justice, illuminating constitutional values of justice, that is socio-economic and political, directed toward the national reconstruction, okay, through the instruments of democracy, rule of law, human rights, and the constitutional values. So, national education policy itself has suggested certain path has to be followed by the legal education system to achieve the objective of the holistic, multidisciplinary, and integrated education system. Okay, if you see, we have dispute resolution system. Now we have certain dispute resolution system which are outside the court. Okay, we have ADR mechanism, we have mediation mechanism. Okay, so how these bodies shall impart justice? Okay, these are adopting the principle of universally accepted guidelines, universally accepted rules, procedures, and formulas which has to be adopted. Okay, so the national education system or national education policy provided that the curriculum, the design, the pedagogy, and the language skills should be in such a manner that our legal education system make it possible to our legal professional to compete globally with respect to these issues, with respect to these challenges. Okay, if you see, the very first objective of the national education policy is to make the legal education as globally competitive. Okay, globally competitive here means the entire understanding of the education was misconceived earlier, because we restricted our education system to only the national regime. which has to be now stopped, which has to be now braked. So the entire understanding of the education planner was misconceived, as they believe that the law is only a litigation instrument and involves a dispute settlement process. Okay, but now it has broader concept, it has wider concept. Law is generally globally competitive. Here means administration of criminal justice is to be determined. Generally, we believe that the criminal justice system has to be determined by the national law or the law of the land. How for the international criminal law has to be in harmony with the national law has been a question which has been recently raised, without any substantial support from any state player beyond the area of war crime under the Geneva and Hague Conventions. Corporate and commercial laws have been constantly under the process of global integration from hundreds of years. Ever since the WTA agreements were put in force in 1995, this process of global integration has been intensified. Okay, so these suggested that with corporate commercial trade dispute, which are increasingly being referred to the arbitration because it cannot be adjudged by the national laws. So does the policies made by the professional bodies are ready for foreign law, for foreign firms, or the foreign lawyers are moving in to protect the interest of the multinational companies and international communities? We have to look into that our national legal education systems are at par with these criteria, with these formula. That is why the NEP has emphasized that our legal education must have to be in line with that, so that our professionals shall be able to handle the situations or the cases which are referred to these arbitration bodies. Okay. The second thing which the legal education system has to be adopted is the best practices. The best practices for what? For timely delivery of justice. If you see, there have been multiple international attempts at codifying the best practices. Okay, but practices through the two international movements. First is through the ancestral model draft of business. Okay, and commercial laws are made available to the member states so that such drafts can fertilize national legislative process as well. Second, the WTO negotiations, commercial and trade law procedures are by and large uniformized or globalized. Okay, these include the World Intellectual Property Organization, pressurizing and uniformizing the intellectual property protection regulations. Beside these two official endeavors, there are many global non-governmental standard setting bodies like the International Standard Organization, Transparency International, and etc., which are in the same line. These non-governmental organizations create constant qualitative pressure on the legal system. If that had been the intention, the statement would have been otherwise. If the part of the speech are thoroughly probed, it would transpire the intention that the best practices would mean that quick process of delivery of justice. So impliedly, we say that our legal practitioners, which are presently practicing the legal profession, must have been able to adopt the practices adopted by these international standard organization or WTO or other international authorities which are providing the same. Okay, so the second best practices which has been emphasized by the national education policies to be adopted is in the line of the mandates provided by the international organization. Second thing is that the national education policy system is also emphasizing upon the technology in the cases of execution of law and justice. And it's very true that the legal education is neglected for adopting the technology. The use of technology has been increased in the case of dispensation of justice through the court system. If we really want to get the quick delivery of justice, the education policy must provide 4 elements for the timely delivery of justice mechanism. For we have to adopt best practices, and these are marching of the law in the global tracks. Second, adopting technology driven procedural laws, learning fact based evidential process for the critical assessment, and national reconstruction is required through the instrument of democracy, rule of law, and human rights. If we see the legal education curricula in the Legal Education Rule 2008 of the Bar Council of India, in its Schedule 2, specified the same idea, adoption of technology. Okay, and the policy also indicated the use of new technology for the wider access to and timely delivery of justice. Okay, if we see the constitutional litigation in which a new interpretation of justice as a value has to be based on national reconstruction by the judges, by the lawyers committed to the guiding principle of democracy. Okay, there are many critics who argue that so far as the construction of social justice is concerned, a parameter got the preference of secularism as the dominating yardstick and the socialism as a guiding principle for economic justice. Okay, but the NEP instead regard the democratic principle based on the rule of law and human rights has to be the guideline, which was overlooked earlier. Okay, so as far as the linguistic context is concerned, teaching learning process in the law should be bilingual. Legal education system or legal education imparting systems may be conducting classes in 2 languages separately. Okay, so the spirit of bilingualism is that each student has to gain competence of deliberating in both the languages in the court proceeding. If the legal education system incorporated the bilingual system, but both the classes which are in different languages have run in different rooms, then how the person will be able to adopt or appreciate both the languages? This is the concern upon which the NEP has emphasized that the legal education system must have to adopt the local language, the regional language, promote the legal education system in the local or legal language, but in the method by which the person who are getting the language, legal language, who are getting the education in legal language, they are able to get it appreciated in both the languages. Okay, NEP also emphasizing upon the experimental learning system, which requires clinical components. We have already adopted legal aid clinics, mandatory internships, moot courts, drafting projects, and include alternate dispute resolution mechanism that I have already earlier stated that mediation and these should be as a compulsory subject. Okay, mediation and ADR should have to be promoted by the government and the judiciary. So law school now must train the student in these practical dispute resolution skills. If really we wanted to get the timely delivery of justice, the legal schools, the law schools have to make it compulsory subject. ADR, mediation, This should be compulsory subject. Okay. Integration of technology in the curricula we have already adopted in the syllabus of legal education system, but it should be made it compulsory in the third year students or the 5-year LLB program, 5th year students. It should be made compulsory. Okay. Then update the courses. Updation of courses is also required. Update the courses with the recent enactments. Okay. Law schools are instructed to include the latest law. That now we have a reform in the criminal law system. We have replaced the old colonial laws by the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita, and Bharatiya Saaksha Adhiniyam. Okay, so the graduates remain be with the new legal changes. The curriculum reforms are usually implemented as a revision to the common scheme of the legal education system, which has to be overseen by the Bar Council of India and through the state level academic councils or university boards. The national education system or the national education policy emphasize upon the flexible multidisciplinary learning, also mean that law degrees can more easily include cross credit courses. How? For example, a BA LLB student might take elective in economics, political science, psychology, or computer science. There are several national law universities which have already adopted credit-based systems and modular elective systems. Now, national education policy have encourages further liberalization in that of the course structure. Okay, in the standalone law university and affiliated colleges, they provide short-term interdisciplinary diploma programs in various subjects like law and AI, certificate courses, open elective courses, which reflect the vision and mission of the national education policy, which talks about the integrated legal education. Okay, if we see in the pedagogy of the national education policy 2020, it pushes, it emphasizes upon the student center method. Okay, it discourages the rote learning. It favors the case method teaching. In various law school already they have adopted the case method teaching. Okay. Then flipped classroom, interactive moot courts, clinic works, legal pedagogy is to emphasize critical thinking, a shift toward critical thinking in the legal research, evidence-based arguments rather than the memorization, which we have in the old syllabus. Okay, the Bar Council of India also guided the same thing, that the legal education should be critical and interdisciplinary thinking approach by encouraging research projects, collaborations across the field. Faculties are now empowered to innovate with a broad curriculum framework. Okay, so both the national education policy as well as the Bar Council aim to transform the classroom into spaces of creativity, debate, practical engagement rather than the purely lecture. Okay. If we see the policy outline a new higher education, setup of new higher education commission of India with its 4 verticals: regulation, accreditation, grants, and academic council. Okay. Section 18 of the National Education Policy states that the National Higher Education Regulatory Council will cover all the education, higher education, excluding medical and legal education. Okay, it specifically talks about there. The Bar Council of India is now considered as a statutory regulator for legal education for bachelor and master degree of law under the Advocate Act 1961. The Bar Council set the curriculum, standard, eligibility, accreditation, and professional entry criteria even as other academic body like UGC, NAC, and NIRF. Okay, but the NEP emphasized upon the idea of professional standard setting bodies to replace the current council. So in theory, the Bar Council is essentially a, you can say, professional standard setting body. Okay, so here also impliedly the national education policy has been implemented in the name of professional standard setting bodies. Okay, and if you see for the law school, the designing of programs with defined learning outcomes, critical thinking, critical legal reasoning, negotiation skills should be consistent with the national higher education standards. Even if it has been administered by Bar Council of India accredited colleges, the NEP envisaged that autonomous governance colleges that reach to the top accreditation level may gain degree granting status. In practice, the academic governance of law colleges will continue to involve the affiliating universities and Bar Council of India committees. However, the NEP encourages governments and the bar councils to support the quality improvement in the legal education system by providing better libraries, lab, faculty development, okay, rather than the rigid oversights. Okay, but what is important here is NEP 2020 continues the existing reservation and regulatory policies for admissions. The Bar Council of India still and the UGC still enforces the caste and economic reservation quotas in the law colleges admission as mandated by the earlier policies. NEP, what NEP is providing here, NEP emphasizes access and equity. Okay, but doesn't alter the Advocate Act in this regard. So the Bar Council of India 2020 legal education rules are remain in force. Okay, but these require approved law colleges to meet the infrastructure, faculty, and curriculum norms, which has been emphasized by national education policies. Okay, and as far as interdisciplinary and liberal art approach has been concerned, if you see the core content of NEP 2020, it breaking the disciplinary barriers also, if you see. So the policy emphasizing that all the institution must be or it should be become multidisciplinary by 2040. And even standalone professional schools like law colleges must also involve in that. Okay. For legal education, this means a deliberate shift from purely standalone law school to integrated campus model. NEP 2020 urged that the law institutes, the law university should introduce the programs in economic, political science, philosophy, criminology, forensic science, IT, and more, so that the legal students shall also gain the broad perspective. Okay. For example, a law student might take a credit in public policy. We have credit-based system, public policy or environmental science, and an engineering student might take a minor in patent law. Okay, several NLUs have already started BA, BBA, LLB, or even a dual LLB plus MBA programs. Okay, so NEP encourages the expanding such collaboration, sub-integrated programs with respect to that. So now law degrees can no longer be narrowly vocational. Okay, law programs are also to include courses on literature, humanities, foreign languages, art, social. Yes. Okay, foreign languages and other things. So this align the global trends of legal education, like comparative law, comparative jurisprudence, है ना, comparative legal history. In various traditional law schools also, we have comparative constitution, comparative criminal law. Okay. So these are the amalgamation of integration of other discipline in the law. Okay. Interdisciplinary research centers are also now have been established at various law schools like AI and Law Lab, है ना? And similarly, the Center for Policy and Law Research, है ना? NEP also emphasizes like that the joint seminars, clinics, projects. For example, if you see the environmental law students, they are partnering with environmental science department or digital science forensic departments or computer science faculties. These are what? These are approach toward the interdisciplinary or the multidisciplinary approach, which have been emphasized by the national education policy. Okay. But certainly academic commentators have said that implementing this multidisciplinary, holistic, integrated education system in the law is very challenging. Many NLUs were founded as one subject universities. They have lack of faculties in the non-law field also. Okay. But national education policy burden them. National education policy vision compel them to broaden their perspective. Okay. The Tamil Nadu National Law University highlighted that integration of law with other subjects is a bigger challenge, or transforming unidisciplinary NLUs quickly into multidisciplinary hubs is a very challenging, or it's very difficult task. Okay. And as far as in policy terms are concerned, Bar Council and UGC may need to facilitate to promote this multidisciplinary approach or this holistic approach in the legal education system by allowing the cross faculty, hiring the collaborative degrees. Even some universities have started the liberal law courses like BA in law and humanities. What is that? This is the incorporation of the NEP 2020 vision. If you see at the undergraduate level, NEP also introduced the 4-year LLB option, with multiple exit points. So this is what? This is the replacing of the old 5-year LLB program, 5-year model into the 4-year LLB option. Okay, this also having an important dimension. This add an exit option after the 3-year program. 3-year, without the thesis, if it has been the person or the individual, the student has exit, then also he have the option, and an enriched 4th-year research component. Okay, so this align with the NR Madhav Menon 4+1 year law degree proposal and supported by the NEP also push for the research integrated bachelor degree program. If you see the NR Madhav Menon vision with respect to National Law University, the vision was same, which is aligned with the national education policy, which reflected the same idea. So now in essence, the law student can now also earn short degree if needed, or stay longer for the depth study, for the research. The policy also opened the door for the law colleges to offer credit-based interdisciplinary minors as a part of this program. Okay, then skill building is a major NEP goal. A skill enhancement program is a major goal of NEP. And legal educations are also directed to become far more practice-oriented. NEP 2020 advocates vocational training program and internship for all the disciplines to enhance the employability. For a law student, this is already partially, we have following, is it? We have already adopted this method of mandatory internship, moot court, na, or internship at the law firms. Hmm. But the National Education Policy and the Bar Council of India are further going by formal integration of moot court, client counseling, clinics, legal aid, arbitration, drafting workshops. It is now become mandatory for all the legal education institutions. Okay. Then in the new framework law of the law curricula, we must have to explicitly include practical project-based courses where the student draft the real documents, mediate mock disputes, or engage in community lawyering. Okay. In 2024 Bar Council curricula, if you see, it explicitly provide that mediation a compulsory subject. It is what? It is a response toward the National Education Policy. Okay. Similarly, courses in alternative dispute resolution, compliance, and specialized drafting contract statutes are strongly encouraged. Experts now stress that training must go beyond the moot court competitions. Students should gain hands-on skills in counseling, client counselings, negotiation, using legal research database, policy analysis. Some law schools have introduced postgraduate diplomas courses in the specialized skills. है ना? For example, IP law, cyber security law, that are aligned with the NEP vision of career-ready graduates. Employability is also one of the major goals of the National Education Policy, which emphasizing upon multi-skillings. If you see, the law graduate will be expected to work in interdisciplinary training. Okay, so many NLUs are adding courses in the management, technology, or language skills. For example, programming for lawyer, data analytics for law, communication skills are now part of many programs. And the NEP proposal that university identify key 21st century skills for each program means that the law degree will list abilities like analytical reasoning, digital literacy, and multilingual communication as an outcome. Okay. If you see the research orientation and doctoral studies in the National Education Policy, National Education Policy 2020 places a strong emphasis on the research in all across research across all the field. No? It emphasizes upon National Research Fund, which mandate that higher education institutions foster a culture of research and innovation. For law school, this means a greater institutional support for legal scholarships. We can expect more and more grant for interdisciplinary legal research. For example, law, science, technology, socio-legal studies. Okay, as well as incentive for faculties and students to publish. Some NLUs have long-run research journals and PhD programs, but the NEP systematically focus upon regional law colleges, research centers. Okay. However, there are many commentators who says that law research methods are different from the natural science. Definitely, we have different approach, we have different methodology for the research. But the National Education Policy drive and push toward the quantitative metrics, indexed publications. Okay, which might not possible for the legal scholarship, which often focuses upon the normative analysis, case commentary, and policy critique. Okay, one analysis notes that applying UGC Scopus style criteria to law journals have been very problematic. So the Bar Council of India may therefore need to develop some specialized standards for legal research and quality in the line of this policy. And ethics acknowledging its unique goals, influencing law reform rather than only patentable innovation, In any case, law doctoral studies, PhD in law, will be benefit from NEP. If we see the national education policy also indirectly affect the post-graduation program of the law, that is LLM, by allowing credit transfer and joint degrees. It may encourage dual LLM or interdisciplinary LLM. This envisioned multidisciplinary campuses and research clusters could host advanced legal courses and LLM research seminars. For example, a LLM student might take elective at neighboring College of Public Health or Science, aligning with this NEP interdisciplinary ethos. Okay. If you see the integration which emphasized by the NEP, that is integration of technology and digital education. NEP 2020 envisions a technology-infused education system. All colleges, including the law colleges, are urged to leverage online platforms, digital libraries, and ICT tools to broaden the access. Okay. NEP specifically named law among fields for new courses to be developed on digital platforms like Swayam. This implies that the law school can disseminate lectures, case reading, short-term programs online via the method of Swayam. Some NLUs have also offering MOOC programs. MOOC programs are massive open access, open online courses in the law. Okay, if you go to the Swayam platform, you find so many courses run by the legal scholars, legal educationists for promoting the law courses available to the people who are not from the law backgrounds. Okay, NEP, this is the NEP. By this method, the law is also influenced by the NEP program of offering the multidisciplinary or holistic development of an individual. Okay. However, we have certain regulatory limits which remains, like the Bar Council of India currently does not recognize any LLB or LLM delivered fully online or by the correspondence. All the law degree must be full-time in-person programs. Recent Bar Council's notifications declare that online distance law courses are void ab initio and subject institutions to penalties. These strict instances arises from a belief that legal training requires face-to-face training. It cannot be disseminated from the online platform, though some specific courses can be attained by the non-legal professionals, non-legal students via the online learning platform, but they didn't get the degrees of law because it requires definitely professional degree. So it requires some specified, some specific training with respect to that. Okay, in practice, what the NEP suggests that university can use technology as a supplement. Okay, for example, law libraries are to be digitalized. E-journal subscription should be expanded. E-courts, simulations, virtual moot courts, and online dispute resolution modules are increasingly common. During the COVID era, law classes are also done by the online methods. And the NEP would likely to endorse the continued use of video lectures or blended learning for the theory, as long as credit and classroom components comply with the Bar Council rules. So, importantly, what is that? NEP recognizes the digital divides and calls for the addressing the equity in tech access. Law institution must ensure that students have necessary devices, connectivities for these resources. In some technology under NEP enriches legal education delivery, but institutional use is careful aligned with the Bar Council mandate. Okay. Another important aspect which NEP emphasizes is access, equity, and quality. NEP 2020 places inclusion and equity as its core. All the directives on curriculum and pedagogy are framed with an aim to eliminate the barriers for underserved groups. In higher education, this translates to expanded financial aid and support for SC, ST, OBC, rural students, or the marginalized students. NEP envisions a vibrant scholarship ecosystem. We saw that there are various NLUs whose fees cannot be afforded by the student. They are not able to afford, so they are not able to get admitted in those NLUs. So NEP envision a vibrant scholarship ecosystem. The existing national scholarship portal will be broadened to reach to more disadvantaged law students and private law colleges. They has to encourage offer large number of free ships and scholarships. Additionally, NEP calls for improvement in campus accessibility to the digital access of the digital access to the certain kinds of educational platforms should be accessible by the hostels, libraries. Some remedial support should also be there to ensure that students from remote or economically weaker background can participate in the law program. If you see where various NGOs are there, various institutions are there, which are providing the training program in the law, like know your constitutional rights, know your legal rights, or what are the minority rights. So this should be encouraged by the law institutions as well. It is very you can say it is very important for any law institution to be abide by the Bar Council of India stipulations or conditions. But if really the institution wanted to promote the or propagate the or disseminate the legal education or impart the legal education, there are various methods by which they can make it possible, by providing only online online teaching learning practices, by adopting Swayam courses, by providing MOOC courses. Okay. And not only the students should be technologically sound, there should be a training program for the teachers as well. The teachers should also be well equipped with the digital technologies, digital access, technological advancement of the courses. Okay. Quality assurance is also one of the core area which has to be emphasized by the higher educations, and NEP also emphasized upon the same. If you see the Bar Council of India 2024 reforms, they are also talking the same thing. Okay. And anti-ragging, gender sensitizations, internship for the disadvantaged students, for or all of it should have elevate the learning environment in the law colleges. These should be encouraged by the law colleges. So if we see, in summary, national education policy strengthened the formal commitment to inclusion in the law education by the scholarship, by support system, by curriculum reform, by bilingualism, while mandating steps to raise teaching and institutional standard. The net effect should be a legal education system that is more accessible to diverse students and more consistently high in quality. Internalization of the education is also one of the core area of the NEP 2020. NEP 2020 promotes emphasize the internalization of education. It means it envisages the Indian campuses drawing many foreign students and India hosting top global institutions. Specifically, NEP proposes facilitating selected university from among the top 100 in the world to open campuses in India. In legal education, this could translate to allowing the world-renowned law schools to partner with the Indian university or set up branch campuses subject to the approval of Bar Council of India and other regulatory authority. Similarly, it encourages Indian law faculties to engage in research collaborations and student exchange with foreign institutions. So this expands the opportunity to joint LLB, LLM programs, dual degree, credit transfer, courses taken abroad. Okay. These are some important aspect which emphasized by the NEP. Finally, which I wanted to communicate is that NEP mantra of Vishwaguru, world teacher, which suggests that India will market itself as a legal education hub by allowing foreign expertise on campuses and by sending Indian faculty abroad. The policy aims to enrich the legal scholarship, legal pedagogy, the new international student offices at every higher education institution as per NEP guidelines would similarly support the foreign law student in India. So in sum total, we can say that NEP 2020 opens Indian legal education to the world, but within a framework that preserve Indian regulatory standard and ensure mutual credit recognition. So we can conclusively say that the NEP 2020 infused Indian legal education with a broad new vision of holistic, flexible, future-ready education system, legal education system in India for undergraduate BA, LLB, and postgraduate LLM, PhD programs. Like the policy calls for updated curricula, skill-focused pedagogy, robust research, equitable access. Law schools are now mandated to integrate technology, emerging fields, interdisciplinary research approach, and interdisciplinary teaching approach, while the Bar Council of India retains the curricular role to regulate and maintain the professional standard. But the impact of these reforms is multifold. Now, the legal graduate can become more techno-savvy, more multidisciplinary thinker, more skilled in practical lawing, and globally informed about the comparative legal system. Okay. At the policy level, NEP compel the government and regulator to rethink the national legal education governance, balancing the autonomy with the accountability. Okay. So this is from my side. Thank you for patiently listening. Hello. Adarsh sir is there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you, ma'am, for such a and enriching session. Your insights on your policy and relevance to legal education have fully broadened our understanding. Hearing you speak on this constitutional reminds me of the insightful lectures I attended at BHU. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and enriching our understanding. We will now take a short question and answer session. Request participants to kindly raise their question, which Dr. will address. And any issue, your questions in chat also.
Good evening, madam.
Very
I
good
have
evening,
a
sir.
small question.
Hmm.
Your lecture is very well working. And my question is, as you suggested that suggested the 4 year slack course. But there is no functioning at 5 year slack course. So is there any time bound is there to shift from 5 years to 4 years?
See, actually, NEP 2020 has suggested that multiple exit and entry policies. In that, the NEP 2020 provided that if the 4 year law courses that shall be treated as integrated courses, if the exit is within the 3 year, that can also be possible. But there is no specific time limit, because we cannot say that now within that time limit it has to be done.
My question is here whether that proposal can it be introduced by the BCI in the cities or colleges?
It has been introduced in the Bar Council of India mandates.
Only 5 years course is there, no, madam. Now,
Yes,
so now
yes.
only 5 years course and 3 years course is running.
Courses are there running. Yes.
But 4 years not yet implemented.
Actually, it has to be implemented. It is not implemented yet. It has to be implemented within the line of NEP 2020, but it has to be within the standard procedure which has been provided by the Bar Council of India. It shall also be it shall also be in consonance of the policy of education system, but it has to be very cautiously implemented. It has to be implemented. It has not been implemented yet. If it has been implemented, then it can be a, you can say it can be a providing a new legal education system.
Okay, right. Thank you, madam. They may BCI has to take a decision for implementing this.
It has yet to be implemented, sir.
I think even the dual degree of that is LLM and LLB is also not introduced.
Yeah, there are various challenges in the legal education system which has to be sought out first. Then only we can adopt these policies.
ये मेरा अनम्यूट नहीं है.
Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you. But you have presented well. More inputs regarding to the impact of this NEP and the. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you, sir.
So I am attending from Sydney.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. You are teaching over there, sir?
No, I am from Tirupati only. I came to Sydney for 2 months. So then I joined in this FTP.
You are from which university, sir?
Tirupati,
Andhra
Tirupati.
University.
Tirupati,
Tirupati.
SV University, one private college is there, Ambedkar Law College. Dr.
So
Ambedkar
you are
Global,
offering 3-year LLB program or 5-year LLB program?
both.
Both.
3 year, 5 year and LLM, both 3 courses are there in.
And what are the ratio of the students, sir, over there in the 3-year LLB program?
That 90 and ABCD groups are there, 360, 400 students are there, more in that.
We have
Very
in our university, sir, generally what we see, there is
60.
more inclination towards the 3-year degree program. In the
But there-
traditional universities, students are getting admitted more and more in 3-year degree programs.
5 years also, more admissions are there in Andhra.
Oh. Sir, which subject you are teaching?
I am recently EPFO, Employees Provident Fund Organization, as enforcement officer and doctor in law to joining in. So then I joined in private college, Ambedkar Global Institute in Swati and the university.
Very beautiful place, sir. Tirupati is very beautiful place.
It's a holy. I am teaching jurisprudence and administrative law. Just 2 months back, I joined. Out of this teaching interest, I joined in that college.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. Thank you so
Okay.
much for attending this session, sir.
Okay. Thank you
So
very much.
what is the time there?
Now the time is 8 o'clock
8 o'clock morning,
evening.
evening.
Yes. 5 years difference is there, madam. 5 hours.
Okay. Okay.
Madam, thank you for your lecture.
Thank you, sir.
Am I audible?
Madam, can I leave if there is no question?
Now I would like to call Nidhi ma'am for the vote of thanks. Nidhi ma'am.
Am I audible? Good afternoon to all. On behalf of the School of Law, G.H. Raisoni University, I, Nidhi Kaswa, take this opportunity to extend gratitude to all who have contributed to the success of today's session. At first, on the behalf of our institution, I want to express our heartfelt thanks to our esteemed resource person, Dr. Swati Madam, Assistant Professor, Allahabad Degree College, Prayagraj, for her enlightening session on the impact of national educational policy in legal education. Your insight have not only enriched our understanding but have also inspired us to reflect upon the challenges and opportunities the national education policy bring to the field of our legal education. I also extend my sincere thanks to our Dean, Dr. Nityanand Pandey sir, School of Law, GH Raisoni Skilltech University, and Dr. Farad Khan Madam, School of Law, GH Raisoni University, Sai Tera, for their constant encouragement and invaluable support. A special word of appreciation goes to our organizing committee, faculty member and participants for their contribution and involvement. With this, we conclude today's proceeding. Thank you once again. Over to you, Raman sir.
Swati ma'am, thank you so much. Thank you so much for accepting our
Thank you,
invitation.
sir. Thank you, sir, providing me this platform. And one
thank
of
you
the
so much.
candidate is from Sydney. He has joined from Sydney.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Shall I leave?
Thank you, Ms. Nidhi ma'am, for expressing gratitude on behalf of all of us. With those heartfelt word of thanks, we now formally bring this session to close. Before we disperse, kindly I remind all participants to fill out the feedback form, the link of which has been shared in the chat box. Your reflections and suggestions are invaluable in shaping our future initiatives. We appreciate your time and active involvement, and we look forward to your presence in upcoming sessions of this faculty development program. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.